Let's take a look at the hotkey install program. Put the disk into the A drive, usually situated as the upper left drive slot if the computer is sitting horizontally on a desk. Close the door, then type A:install and return. Some computers have no hard disks and only one floppy drive. On these machines, insert the hotkey install diskette into the drive and proceed with installation as if there were another drive called B onto which you plan to install hotkey. A message will appear on the screen from time to time instructing you to remove a diskette from drive A and insert a diskette into drive B or vice versa. Since these PCs have only one floppy drive, DOS uses this technique of disk swapping to treat the one drive as two. When this message appears, you will need to remove the installed diskette, diskette A, and insert the disk onto which you are installing hotkey, diskette B. Be sure to close the drive door and press Enter. You may have to repeat this process several times before all of the necessary files are copied onto your new diskette. The default is the C drive. PCs have several disk drives. Disk drives are the things that read disks. Each disk drive is designated with a letter. Drives that read floppy or 3.5-inch disks are drive A or B. Hard disks are large disks that are permanently built into PCs. These are designated by the letters C or greater. Hotkey here assumes that you want to install it on the hard drive, which is drive C. If the PC does not have a hard drive, hotkey would show a different default, which would probably also be right. This is asking if you want hotkey in your autoexec.bat file. This means that every time you turn the computer on, hotkey will automatically be turned on. In general, this is a good idea, but some PC users may not desire automatic installation for reasons specific to their use of the PC. When in doubt, answer this question, yes. The hotkey install program needs to know if you have a dedicated parallel printer attached to the PC. Such a printer will not be accessible on the StarBus intercom. If you have such a printer, the hotkey install program will ensure that data sent to the dedicated printer is not rerouted onto the intercom. Since this computer has no parallel printer attached, we select No by typing N or simply striking the return key. Now restart the PC to load hotkey this first time. Remove the hotkey installation diskette and restart the PC. If you have trouble restarting the PC, consult the manufacturer's literature or a knowledgeable user. The receptacles on the back of PCs used for data communications are called ports. There are two types of communication ports on small computers, serial and parallel. With the exception of very early versions of the original IBM PCs, virtually every desktop computer has a serial communications port. The serial communication port is also called the RS-232 port. It has become a widespread industry standard. For RS-232 terminals as well as IBM and compatible PCs, these cables have a D-shaped connector with 9 or 25 pin positions. On Apple computers and Epson printers, these connectors require cables with a round 5 or 7 pin connector on the equipment side. Like phone systems, not all devices use all pins. Only 4 or 5 of these pins are important to the vast majority of applications. IBM AT-style PCs, for example, all use 9-pin jacks. A parallel port transmits data over 8 individual wires at the same time. A serial port transmits data 1 bit after the other over a single wire. Many computers have both 1 or 2 serial ports and 1 or more parallel ports. Identifying the serial port on a PC can be a challenge. An individual who frequently uses the PC may know which is the serial port. On IBM and compatible PCs, this port has a D-shaped male 25-pin or male 9-pin receptacle. Some computers use 25-pin D-shaped connectors for parallel ports as well, but these are almost always female. If the port has a male 9-pin connector not used by the monitor, it's probably the serial port. Generally, it's not on the far right, viewed from the back of the CPU. The slot nearest the side of the computer is usually used for the video monitor and in some models a parallel printer port. Most printers are parallel. To be used on a StarBus intercom, a serial to parallel converter must be inserted between the StarBus cable and the printer. Computers and peripherals have many communication settings. It's very important to read and follow the directions in the manufacturer's installation literature before adding them to the data intercom. For StarBus to successfully connect any two devices, these devices must be able to communicate if attached directly together with an RS-232 cable between their respective serial ports. If a connection cannot be made without StarBus, it won't work with StarBus. StarBus simply combines all of the data conversations onto one telephone wire pair and routes the appropriate data to the proper intercom station. On all installations, it's best to bring a handful of gender changers, two-way splitters, 9 to 25 pin converters, Apple Mac cables, and a serial to parallel converter. Next, you should install the bus drivers themselves. Inside the package, you'll find a power supply, a reversing RJ11 cable, and a bus driver intercom station. You'll set up or initialize each bus driver on one PC or terminal and then plug them into the computer equipment you want to attach to the intercom. First, you have to go into terminal mode. This step is not necessary for terminals. For non-IBM compatible PCs, such as computers from Apple, Commodore, DEC, or Sun, you'll need to use a communications program designed to operate on that equipment. Most communications programs have a terminal mode. Terminal mode puts you directly into communications with your serial port. It's easy with hotkey. Type the word hotkey and press return. Once hotkey is loaded, press and hold the Alt key, then strike the Home key. This is usually the 7 key on the square keypad to the right of the alphabet keys. This causes hotkey to pop up onto the screen. Check that the panel switch on the bus driver is set to the left. Plug the power pack into the wall. Plug the RS-232 cable on StarBus into the serial port. Now, while holding down the space bar, insert the other end of the power supply into the bus driver. This sends a stream of space bars into the bus driver, and the bus driver automatically sets its transmission speed to that used by your computer or terminal. Press return to continue. For all selections, use the space bar to rotate through the options. Press return to make a selection and move to the next parameter. The first choice is terminal type. The choices are video or print. Use the spacebar to select print only if this bus driver will be used on a printing terminal. That is, if it will be attached to a printer with a keyboard. Otherwise, leave this setting at video. For the vast majority of devices, set terminal type to video, even for most printers. Set echo commands to yes if the bus driver will be connected to a PC or terminal. Select no for all peripherals, such as modems, printers, plotters, and so on. The next parameter is bus driver number.